masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Jeff. Today, I've got a really special guest here. We've got Andy Marshall from the band Saor, right? Is it Saor? Saor?
Yes.
All right. I was practicing my Geddy Lee. Have you ever seen, are you a fan of Rush at all?
I'm not a huge fan. I like listening to them, but I
Okay,
don't know.
well, a couple tours ago, I think it was the R30 tour. The intro to a lot of their intro video before they came out on stage was Geddy was dressed up as a Scottish chicken farmer, and he does a pretty good Scottish accent. So I was trying to affect that, but it's not going to carry on the rest of the episode. So how you doing, Andy? Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. How's the weather over there in Scotland right now? Is it pretty cold and blustery?
It's okay today. We had a big storm recently that basically destroyed my whole street. So
Oh, really? Like
people's fences everywhere,
hurricane
and
types, like
No.
high winds and stuff like that?
yeah. It was a couple of days ago actually. It's just today people have actually got people to fix the stuff because it was nationwide, so
Okay.
they were probably very busy.
Where now? Do you mind if I ask where you're located generally?
Yeah, just I'm outside of Glasgow.
Okay, Glasgow. Help me out. Up north or down south or middle?
They would say probably not too south, kind of closer to the centre.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember, man. I'm old enough now. I've been out of school long enough that I don't remember. I have trouble with my capitals of the United States, let alone of other countries. But is Glasgow or Edinburgh the capital?
Edinburgh,
Edinburgh. Okay. And
unfortunately.
Edinburgh that's up a little higher than you, right?
That's to the east, and it's it's higher.
Okay.
But it's not like Highlands. It's further to the east. They've got a very different accent.
Right. It's funny because one of my favorite bands of all time. This is actually a question, so I'm jumping ahead here simply because I was aware of these storms because I follow Fish. Do you know Fish?
Yeah.
Everybody in Scotland has to know who Fish is. I mean, you have to be dead not to know who Fish is. So Marillion was one of my all-time favorite bands back in the 80s and 90s and whatnot. And he does like a weekly or sometimes semi-monthly live stream where he just kind of catches people up. And he moved up into the Hebrides. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's way up north, correct?
Yeah. That's up north. Where are they originally from, though?
East Lothian, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Which is near Edinburgh or no?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
what I thought. Yeah, sort of, kind of, right. But yeah, so the storms kind of wreaked havoc on the street, huh? That's a bummer.
Yeah, but we all survived, so that's the main thing.
Was it a hurricane type thing or just a bad rain type storm?
Oh no, it was like a really, really bad storm. Little local sort of. There's a place near me called Helensburgh, and they've got a local swimming bath slash community place.
Right.
And the entire roof is like flown right off the place because it's right next to the water. So the storm was hitting it really bad.
So it was pretty severe then. It was pretty
and
intense.
there's trees everywhere on the roads.
Wow.
Well, there was. They've been moved now, but a few days after it was pretty chaotic, and I had to move quite a lot of stuff from my garden, like glass and stuff, because I actually had glass panels on a table and they actually flew off and luckily didn't smash. So I had to,
oh man,
I went out to collect them.
You lucked out. Yeah. Wow. So that sounds almost like a Scottish hurricane sort of kind of.
Yeah, kinda, except not as exciting.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, well, look, the reason you're here is we're going to talk about well, first of all, before we get into that for a moment, I should give you a little history about my history with the band. A good friend of mine, John from Metalhead's podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They don't do a video podcast. They do
Okay.
an audio podcast, and he's seen you guys a couple times. I have not. I know you played Atlas Brewing a couple years ago, but probably pre-pandemic, I believe it was. I remember you were
Yeah.
there, and I wanted to make the show, but it was just I'm about a 2.5 hour drive, and there was just too much going on that I couldn't get down in time.
2019.
What's that?
2019.
Was it? Yeah, it was 19. That's what I thought. It was right before the pandemic. But it was my intention to be there, so maybe the next time. But which we'll get to in a minute here. But I actually came into you guys. I'm going to cheat here a little. I hope you don't mind. I have to pull up Metallum to remember the album names, which is lame, I know, but it's just the reality. Once you get nearly 60, man, everything goes. So I came into you guys with Forgotten Past, which would have been in 19.
2019, yeah.
Right, and he had been pounding me, dude. You got to check. We called you Sour though all the time.
Sour.
Yeah, sorry, the Americanized version of Sura. So he got me into you guys, and then I kind of, I missed Origins. Somehow I missed that album. There was a lot going on. We had this little thing called a pandemic or something like that, and I missed that. And then I think it was like maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago when you released the first single, or maybe it was early December, mid-December.
November, I think.
Or late. Okay, well, late November then. Okay. I'm terrible with time, obviously. And you released the track that I saw was the first track off the album, which you know the names of them, and Amidst the Ruins.
Amidst the Ruins.
Yeah. And I was like, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I got to talk to Will. I got to get Andy on here. We got to talk about this, man. So I've had the album for about a month and a half or so. The promo version, of course.
Yeah.
And man, dude, fantastic work. Absolutely fantastic work. And we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. But before we do, I kind of wanted. Oh, and by the way, the album is called Amidst the Ruins, and it is due out on the 7th of February.
7th, yeah.
Season of Mist.
Yep, that's right.
And this is your 6th album. For some reason, I can't count apparently either, because initially in the promo stuff I put together, I put the 5th album, and I'm like, wait, I don't think this is our 5th album. I think it's the 6th. So it is the 6th album, correct?
What I got? Yeah.
Pretty awesome when the artist, the main dude in the band, is like, I think it might be. I don't know.
Oh, after 3, you stop counting.
You stop worrying about it. Yeah, right. Well, we're going to talk about that too. So, the one thing I wanted to ask you about first of all was I pronounced it right, and I know I pronounced it right because I watched some interviews with you and I got the lowdown beforehand, right? But what I did want to ask was, you changed the name originally from RCI. Can you get into a little bit of the dynamics of why you changed it and why you went with what you have now, Sur, which is apparently the old name meant ancient or archaic, and the new one is, what does the new one mean now? I couldn't find anything that was definitive, but I did hear about carpenter. Something about carpenter.
Carpenter. Yeah, well, it means free. In general, it means free. In Scottish and Irish.
Free as in FREE.
Free, yeah.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
But the language is such a complicated thing that it also does mean carpenter, I think, and some other random stuff. But the intention was it's meant to mean free, and I just liked the simplicity of the 4 letters and the meaning behind it. I mean, it kind of sums up the project in general. I think with the music as well. I'm free to do what I want. It's not specifically just black metal style. There's a lot of different things going on. So I guess the freedom of expressing different genres in the music.
Well, we're definitely going to get into that because that's a big question I have for you later. But I want to point to a few things to get you in deeper on that. But that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, the original name, Arsi.
I think it's. I'm not actually. I don't speak Gaelic, or I'm not a native speaker. I just like the I just liked the meaning behind the names and chose
Right.
them randomly. The original name RC, which I hope I'm pronouncing right, that means ancient, archaic. But I tried to distribute the album, and I had a few issues with the accent on the
Oh,
A.
okay.
And I just decided I'm one of these people that just decide things on the spot. So I thought, nah, I'm just gonna I'm just
Okay,
gonna
I got
change
you.
just gonna
What,
change it. And
from a printing standpoint, like, or getting?
no, not printing. We released it. We released it with the old band name, but the digital side was a bit of a pain.
Oh, okay.
And also just in general, I just started not to really like the name.
Gotcha.
And at that time, we'd released Roots, the first album, and I
Hmm.
didn't really think I had any fans, to be honest with you. So I didn't think
Right, right,
anyone really cared.
right.
Apparently, I started some kind of argument on Facebook and all that, the social media, when I
I
decided to change it.
Oh,
But
back then you mean back
yeah,
then? Yeah, yeah,
back
yeah,
in
yeah,
2013. But
yeah.
ever since, that's been 12 years now that it's been called Sir. So hopefully they've forgiven me.
I can see it right now. He's sold out. He changed the band name already. I can just see it. That kind of stuff, right?
Oh, well, as I said, I didn't think anyone really cared, to be
Yeah,
honest with you,
yeah.
because it was such a
Obscure.
small, little, obscure
Yeah,
project,
yeah, yeah.
and I just preferred the other name, and I was like, damn, I wish I really went with that name at first. And yeah, I'm glad I did change it because I don't really like the earlier name, to be honest with you.
Okay, okay. I was just kind of curious, and I mean, I was not aware of any of the hoopla about on Facebook about it. It's because I wasn't aware of you guys back in 2013. So that wasn't the intention of my question. It was just kind of to get what was going on in your head at that point in time, like to make that change. I think they're both really cool names. They both really work in terms of they're not multiple syllables. It's kind of and as far as the definitions of them or the meanings, you could really, I think you could make an argument that you could tie in ancient and um, archaic or whatever you want to say. What does it say here? Ancient and archaic. You could tie that to your music as well too. There's a very earthy sort of old feeling to it, if that makes any sense. It has a vibrancy of times gone by when I listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the meaning behind the name
Mm-hmm.
isn't the issue. It was the name itself that was the issue for me, and I just didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the way it pronounced, and
Yeah, yeah.
I just chose another name, and ever since I've just kept that name. And we re-released Roots under Sewer, but it's essentially the same thing, you know.
Cool, cool. Got a couple people here stopping by. It is the middle of the afternoon here. Most people are working. So there you go. I drove up from Glasgow on Friday from Wrexham for the Dead of Winter Festival. There you go. Hey Johnny, how you doing, buddy? All right. All right. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. If you see me looking off here, that's my cheat sheet a little bit because I've got some deep questions and I'm a very old guy, so I can't memorize stuff. But so let's talk a little bit about before we get into the album specific. I kind of wanted to ask you, and I know this is one of those dreadful questions that you're like, every guy asks this question. It's so lame. But I do think this is an important question for every artist that I talk to, and that is to kind of get a feel for um, what influences, what type of things were you listening to as a kid, maybe, and as a teenager and a young adult that kind of led to where we're at with Sur. And I'm not necessarily asking you to, the what's the first album you bought. I mean, if you remember and you want to say that, that's fine. But I think you get the gist of what I'm getting at here.
Um, I mean, in terms of like rock and metal, I got into it when I was maybe like when I started high school, probably.
Mm-hmm.
What age was I then? Like I don't
14,
even
15, somewhere around.
somewhere like that. I mean, my dad always listened to like rock music, Led Zeppelin, and all that kind of stuff. So I already heard that stuff and thought it was quite cool. But
Right.
then in high school, I discovered like Nirvana and Metallica, Iron Maiden, and all those kind of bands, mainstream type bands.
Sure.
And at the same time, it was sort of like the whole new metal thing was kicking off. So
Yeah.
I got Slipknot's first album, which
Okay.
I actually do really, really like still to this day. I think everything else is absolutely crap that they've released, but that first album, I guess, is a nostalgic thing.
It was.
Um,
It probably is, and it was kind of in a large way pretty trend setting at the time.
Yeah, because a lot of bands were coming out with like baggy jeans and sort of like the whole rap influence, and they kind of
Right.
came out with these
The corn stuff and the
crazy
Mudvayne.
masks,
Yeah.
and you know, as a teenager, you think that's pretty rebellious and cool.
Yeah.
So, but the album itself is actually really awesome. I still like it to this day, and I love Joey Jordison as a drummer. He was a great drummer, and he did contribute to a lot of great projects and great bands. So. Other bands, as I said, I listen to Nirvana, still like Nirvana. Like I still like a lot of these bands that I used to
Sure.
listen to.
Oh, of course.
Maybe I don't listen to them as often, but I still appreciate them. And these are the bands that influenced me when I was younger. I was a huge, still am, love Silverchair from Australia.
Yeah.
They were like a big band, and they're the first band that I sort of learned their riffs on guitar because they're so simple and easy. So that's like in my younger days. Then one of my friends at school, he was like a metalhead, and I was just kind of like into rock kind of stuff and like more mainstream stuff.
Sure.
And he gave me a loan of some of his CDs, and he gave me like Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth, and the more like, do you want to call it mainstream black metal
Right.
bands, some death metal bands he gave me as well. And I really, really liked I think it was Midian he gave me of Cradle of Filth, which is another album, a great album. And I can't remember the Dimmu Borgir one, but I really liked the sound. And then he was like, right, are we ready to try some other stuff now? And this is when he gave me the, Dark Throne and Mayhem and Burzum and
Mayhem and
Immortal.
all the crazy shit. Right. Immortal. Sure.
So I got all these albums, and I was like, wow, this is just.
This is it.
I don't know what I thought at first when I listened to it. I listened to it, and I was kind of like, I don't know what to make of this stuff. Especially Dark Throne was one of my favorite black metal bands. One of the first black metal bands I listened to as well. And I listened to Blazing the Northern Sky, which is legendary album. And I was like, I don't know what to think of this. And I loved the artwork. It was so grim and dark. And then I listened to it a few more times, and something just clicks, I think, with black metal. You either get it or you don't. And
yeah.
And then it clicked.
It took me a very long time. I'm almost 60. I'll be 59 in about 6 weeks. And so for me, I came up in the 70s. So the Zeppelins, the Tulls, the Yeses, the Rushes, that was
the good old days.
Well, it was the stuff that was happening, right?
Yeah.
Because the Beatles were done, in 70 they were done. What's ironic is I didn't get hip to Sabbath until 1980 when Dio was with them, weirdly. That's a very strange one. I still haven't figured that one out, that I didn't really equate the Ozzy era stuff, you know what I mean? I just didn't click with it. But my point was going to be that I've come up through the 70s, which I honestly do regard as kind of like the golden era of music as far as overall, many genres. Of course, we didn't have black metal and death metal, but that was the era of the album, the long player, the AM radio, where they would play any song. They didn't have to be formatted to play Stained 18 times or Slipknot 20 times. You know what I mean? You could play the whole side of Relayer if you wanted, Gates to Delirium or something, and that was cool. But then that dipped into, I missed the punk thing. I was just young enough that when the punk thing kind of hit, I was still a little too young to get it. I was still into my Kiss records because Kiss was the band that was like, that's the one.
Yep.
Kiss was the gateway drug for me into everything. And, now I look back at them and I still like some of those early albums, but they're kind of laughable in a cartoony way, but they were the gateway for me. They opened the door. But then I came into the 80s and you had all the synth pop, the great synth pop, Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears and the one hit wonder bands. And then you get into the middle to late 80s. That's when the good shit starts happening. That's when the Queensryches, the progressive metal stuff starts, and you've got Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer. That was my kind of sort of thing. So it does kind of depend on your entry point into it. And I'm going to assume you're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, I'm 36.
You're very young, much younger than me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you know, you're in the dark, so I can use that as an excuse. I figured you were probably like early 40s or something like that. So, but I mean, the reality of it is when you come in at a certain point, that's your entry point. And you got to work your way back if you're interested in working your way back. And then it's forward ho. So I didn't really get into death metal or black metal until the early 2000s because I heard Death Possessed and I'm like, that shit is whack. Like, who wants to listen to that garbage with those vocals? Like, come on, that's stupid. And now I prefer that stuff over a lot of clean vocals, you know. So
I got into that stuff when I was in the early 2000s as well, because that's when I started high school.
right.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, so I got into black metal and death metal. I don't really like death metal as much, but there's some bands I like. I like
Mhm.
Nile and bands like that, but I don't listen to it as often. But in high school, to early 2000s, that was sort of like at least coming up for 10 years after the sort of Norwegian boom.
Right.
And these albums were already quite established, but it was really cool to find those bands. And then obviously after hearing all the kind of popular black metal stuff, you dig a little deeper into the underground, and I found other bands, and from there it was just something I really loved. And then I found out the sort of crossover folk black bands, black metal bands,
Yeah,
and
like whom? Give me a couple of those. I'm curious.
well, what one of the bands that I love and I would say is a huge inspiration was Vindir from Norway.
Oh, of course.
Uh,
Of course.
and I mean, people would probably put them more in the black metal category, but there's a lot of folk influence in the guitar playing. There's a lot of
1,000,000%.
yeah. So I really liked what they did. They kind of took the Norwegian style black metal and added. It depends. Some people say it's kind of cheesy. I don't think it's cheesy, but the folk elements I thought were quite classy. Instead of being sort of that cheesy stuff you get now about folk metal bands. Oh,
Yeah, the
we love to
cheesy shit
drink
stuff.
and
Yeah,
we're
you get
Vikings and all this
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked it, the kind of darkness of it, and it was more like about history rather than a sort of fantasy style pagan thing. So yeah, that band was a huge inspiration for me. And I think during that time I did listen to some folk metal. I don't really listen to folk metal in general, but can't think of the bands I was listening to at the time. Probably the popular ones like Fintroll and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Mhm.
But I'm not really a huge fan of these bands anymore. But I guess they kind of influenced me a little bit as well, and that's why I started writing that style of music. A little bit of black metal, a little bit of folk metal, a little bit of this and that. So
Well, when did you start playing guitar? Was guitar your first instrument or
yeah,
okay, and when did you start?
I want to say like 13 or 14 was the time I got a guitar, and I used to get the guitar magazine that came with the CD, and
Yeah.
you
Guitar
had to
for
tap.
the was
So I
that
had to just
practicing musician? Was it guitar for the practicing musician or
um, Guitar World or something like
Guitar
that.
World? Guitar
Yeah,
World. Yeah.
I think it was called that, and you used to get the CD and you could play along, and you used to read the tab, and I had to
Yeah,
kind of. So I'm all self-taught. I never went to like any lessons or
same here
anything.
mostly.
Yeah, so I just learned to read the tab, and when I started playing guitar and was still into music, I didn't have the internet, so that was the glory days.
Yeah.
And I used to get excited to go to the record store like with my mum or something like that, and she would
Man.
say pick 5 CDs for your Christmas or something, and
Man, that's the
yeah.
greatest, right? That was the greatest.
So unfortunately nowadays that's kind of not a thing
Gone.
now, which
Gone.
is sad. And I definitely think that kind of stuff is it's taken away from me as well, because
Yep.
I don't particularly go into record stores now and buy 5 CDs, and because you can get it so much easier,
I'm
especially
still,
online and
as you can tell, I'm still
collecting.
I'm a guy that
Yeah,
collects. Yeah, I
yeah, yeah,
mean, there's vinyl everywhere, and that is. I don't know whether it's because of the product of my age. Probably is. That has a lot to do with it. I'm a tactile guy. For a very, very long time, I didn't have a record player. I bought a record player last year. I had about 150 albums because I had sold all my albums back in the late 80s when CDs came out. I'm like, what do I need these for, man? I got
yeah,
CDs.
yeah,
I can play them here at the house. I can throw them in the car. And being on YouTube with a bunch of other dudes that are vinyl guys, very codependent group, man. We are very bad for each other because the one thing it's like, dude, did you check out? Did you check out? Did you check out? And you're like,
yeah,
and then you get back into the vinyl thing a little. I did. Like I said, I had about 150 albums before. I think I'm up to 600 now inside of a year. So I've kind of gone a little bit stupid on the other, addictive side, and I got to
yeah,
kind of chill on that because my credit card isn't really appreciative of that at the moment. But I will say that there is a big difference in picking up this,
yeah,
pulling the sleeve out, and not having to do this to try and read it, especially at my elderly age now these days. But I mean, I am just a tactile guy. I gotta have physical. So while I may listen to a lot of stuff online and check it out to determine whether I really want it or not, that's the benefit. That's the good side of having the streaming and the internet stuff. Because there were times in the past in the 70s, 80s, and 90s before the internet where you were taking a flyer. You were doing it based on, hey, this cover looks cool. I mean, wow, that's a cool looking cover. That's got
yeah.
to be good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still buy physical, but I only really buy stuff that I know I like. I'm not searching for bands mainly anymore.
Right,
Just out of the fact I don't really have the time to do it at the moment.
right, sure.
It's not that I'm deliberately doing it, but no, I get you. I liked buying a CD when I was younger. Obviously, it was CDs when I was younger, and
Right.
I loved even the smell of a new CD and taking it out and reading
Taking
the
that wrapper
yeah,
off and
yeah,
pulling that thing out. It's just like it's kind of like you get a high from it. There's a high
yeah,
that you get from
and yeah, it's a shame that's gone. But I was the generation of CDs were still around, but then the internet came about, and no one really had fast enough internet
Yeah, because you'd have to
to
download stuff. It would take 2 days to download
yeah.
an album.
So I always remember having Napster when it came out, and
Yeah,
like I heard if I heard a song on TV, I would go on Napster and I would like download it and wait for like a week so it downloaded, and then hope that it was the song that
yeah, yeah. Hope that
uh,
and hope it didn't time out somewhere in your
yeah,
downloads. You had to start
yeah,
it all over. Hey, the one thing about Napster is though, Lars was 1,000,000% right, man.
it was,
They
and
were 100% on it, man.
he got a lot of shit for that, and
Yep.
I don't think he really deserved it. He is a terrible drummer, to be fair, but like
Great ambassador for metal, though. Great ambassador for metal. You know what I mean?
yeah, but the Napster thing was quite true, and in hindsight, it's funny looking back now to see all the people that kind of
Yeah.
tried to put him down for it.
Yep.
He was right. It should have been monetized for musicians way quicker. It should
Oh
have
yeah.
been there was just like the wild west really. And look at us now on
Right.
Spotify, like it's getting
What do you
paid.
get? What do you get? Checks for like $1.35 for like 5,000 streams or something? Or
Yeah,
yeah, it's
something
crazy.
like that. And then if you take into consideration the label takes a cut as well, you're talking about like nothing really.
Yeah, and the guy, what's his name? Enki or Enk? What's the guy behind Spotify? The Dutch guy, right?
Is he not? Is he Swedish or something? I don't know.
Maybe he is Swedish, but anyways, he's kind of a piece of shit. Let's be honest. He's literally diluted artwork to nothing, and he's a millionaire.
I
See,
read that. I read that he is also been using AI before AI became sort of mainstream. He was using that for like playlists. So he would make playlists through Spotify. So like, say you were looking for meditation music or something, and it would
right?
have all these random artists, and you click on the profile page, and it'd be one song, it's because it's like Spotify generated this through AI, so they would
Oh,
get the streaming royalties through it. So anytime you went on this playlist and you played
he's
that, and it's
getting
got
paid
5 million streams, that's all going to back to this dude.
to him.
So
Wow, I didn't know that, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, he just
yeah.
seems like a total scumbag. Um, so let's talk about the new album real quick. I think because I was going to ask you about being in, if you knew about Marillion and you knew about Fish, because that's kind of how my big connection to Scotland is through Fish. I mean, just kind of, I'd love to get there. I've never been. A good friend of mine who's probably watching or will be watching, Jimmy. He huge fan of yours, just massive fan. He does a lot of hiking videos. I'll send you the link then. I've will send you the link then to his YouTube channel because I think you'd really enjoy it. He was over in Scotland for 2 weeks last year, I believe. Might have been a year and a half ago. And he just told me, he's like, dude, you have no idea that just the history, just the natural beauty is just insane. You can't you can't really put it into words. And he did a whole video of his travel there, and it was just like, oh, dude, I don't want to watch any more of it because I just want to jump in a plane and go right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
beautiful country and seemingly really wonderful people. So let's jump into your new album here, and I've got a lot of thoughts and things I want to talk about with it here. How are you on time? Because I don't know if did Will indicate to you that I'm usually not a 30-minute guy.
No, but I do have I've got an interview at 1:30.
What time's that?
So it's just 8 the now. It's just hit 8:02.
So we
So
have about 20, 25
25
minutes.
minutes or something.
Okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just give me a heads up if I'm rambling. Just say, hey, let's wrap
Yeah.
it or something like that. So because I can do that because when I get excited, I get really All right, so let me. I'm going to pull this up because I don't actually have, of course, the. Why is this happening? Hold on a sec here. I'm trying to navigate. There we go. All right. So there is the new album, the new artwork for the album. And I'm cutting a little bit of it off. Darn it. There we go. Well, you can see it there pretty good. So tell me a little bit about, this is following 2022's Origins album, which effectively came out, when COVID was kind of ending, obviously. Was there any sort of different approach to creating this album versus, say, any of your past albums? And like, is your creative process, for lack of a better term, a regimented sort of workflow type thing, or are you a guy that gets hit with the muse of, oh, I hear a riff in my head, or oh, I woke up to, literally, not to be so crass, but I woke up to take a piss last night and I hear this thing in my head. I got to go grab a guitar because I've done that before. Weirdly, I'm probably sharing too much information there, but I mean, I've literally gotten up to go to the bathroom and been like, wait a minute, I just heard, like, you know how it is as a guitar player.
Yeah.
You hear some relational thing, and maybe I had a dream about it or whatever. But get into that a little bit for me if you could.
So the last album, Origins, that was out after COVID was sort of different to all the other albums because
Very much
songs
so.
the songs were shorter for a
Yes.
start.
Yep.
It was a bit more focused on the pagan folk side than any kind of black metal side. I was listening to a lot of like heavy metal kind of stuff during.
All right, can I interject just for a
Yeah.
sec? If I went down here and look in my notes, you're already stealing all my notes here. I'm like, so Origins has much more of a traditional metal rock vibe to it as opposed to
Yeah.
your other longer, expansive, epic sort of track. So we're on the same page, and you are as well, obviously. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening specifically to a lot of a band called Witch Hazel. I don't know if you know those guys.
Say that again.
Witch
Witch Hazel. Oh
Witch
yeah, Witch
Hazel.
Hazel. Oh yeah, hell yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was listening to a lot of them.
Love that debut.
So yeah, I was listening to just like random heavy metal playlists and stuff. I don't know. I'd really just got a taste for it during COVID.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that probably heavily influenced it with the kind of there's a lot of galloping and a lot of
Yes.
leads and stuff. So
Yes.
yeah, and it had a mixed kind of reaction with the fan base, I guess, because they're used to the long, expansive, atmospheric black metal-esque type stuff. So Yeah, it was good. I really like the album, but
I like it too. I really like it. I'll tell you why. Because it's different and it has
yeah,
a different vibe to it. And I love traditional heavy metal, man. I mean, it's probably my favorite genre of all. So I noticed it right away. And of course, you notice the track lengths are sub 8 minutes, whereas a lot of your stuff gets into the much more expansive track lengths.
yeah. I think yeah, I really like the album, but it's quite different to the older stuff. So I can understand why people didn't really like
Connect.
it, you know. But it was weird because I thought because the songs were shorter, it was going to be a little bit better for live performances, but it really didn't turn out that way. It was actually worse because
Really?
for some reason we just didn't feel the songs like playing them live, and we dropped most of them apart from Origins, the title track,
Right, right.
from the sets. So yeah, and then moving forward, they've got Amidst the Ruins. That this was just kind of natural for me to write these long songs. And I'd been doing a lot of rehearsing for Aura. My old album Aura, that was coming up for its 10-year anniversary. So I was playing a lot of Aura stuff, and I kind of got the bug, the
Ah,
long song bug
right,
again.
right, 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 right.
Um, when I write music, I don't think I have much in the way of you know having a melody or a riff in my head and going, oh, I have to go and record. I
I was just going to ask you because you kind of brought it up. I was going to
uh,
jump in and go, what where's the governor system? Like where you know what that means? Do you know what that means in English here American? That means like a governor is something that keeps you from going too fast on a car or something. What's the place? Do you have a place where you're like, all right, this is too much. I got to trim a lot of this stuff off, or how's that work for you? Or is just a vibe and a feel that you know when something needs to end, or
um, well, all the songs on Amidst the Ruins, the demos were like longer than the actual songs are, so
okay,
I trimmed them back a bit and I changed things all the way up to the recording process. I changed little things here and there. I don't think that I don't think there's something inside me that says, "Oh, this has to end." I just feel like I want to go on to a next song type thing. Like I could easily write a 25-minute song, but I'm like, what's the point if it's not going to be interesting enough?
right, right,
So yeah, when I'm writing the music, I don't have like a melody or a riff. I usually just sit down, get my guitar, see what happens, and
okay,
if things start really happening and I get a bit of inspiration, I'm usually sitting there for days because I only have a short window of that inspiration, you know.
right.
So I try and record as much as I possibly can, and then I'll come back to
It's like when you kind of catch fire, you want to just put the lightning in the bottle and go with it.
yeah, pretty much. That's what
Yeah.
I did with this for all the metal songs, at least on the album. I did that. Then I'll come back to it. I'll start sort of layering guitars. I might do some harmony leads. I might, I come back and forth. I don't just sit on it for a month straight and then that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I started taking like bits and pieces from other demos and swapping them around and trying
Oh.
out different things. Like so, yeah, that's how I do it. And then once
So
I've
so if I'm reading you right, these tracks as they end up on this album probably were somewhat different or considerably different than what they were from the original demos or your original demos of the ideas. Or were
yeah,
they
yeah, the original demos, and then like obviously I'll edit the demos to make the final song. So the demos I have at the moment are very similar to the songs now, but when I started them, they were pretty
right?
different. So yeah, that's how I do it, and I don't know, just something happens, and I end up going in this like inspirational kind of
So you
recording space.
it's not like you go okay, I have to write an album now. So I have to sit down and like bang this shit out for the next 3 months. Or is it like that?
No, no, not at
Okay.
all. I don't feel any
Some
pressure to
artists
do it.
do that. Some artists are pressured that the record company starts going, "Hey, we need a new album. What's going on? Are you going to do an album? What's happening?" and then they have to like actually force themselves to get into a creative space, and then the actual pressure of creating results in the what you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm fumbling over my words here, but the actual pressure and stress and anxiety of having a deadline makes them chop, 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 so to speak. You're not like that then.
I did have a deadline for it to be released in February, because I originally wanted to release it last year, but I got quite ill during the year,
Okay.
and it was like back to back illnesses, so I had to like put a break on recording, and
Okay.
that kind of delayed it for a bit. So I then I discussed it with Season of Mist, and they
Sure.
decided February's the closest we can do after that. And I thought, well, that gives me an extra few months to do the recording, get it mixed and mastered, and I have a deadline as well, so I'll stick to that. But they're usually quite good labels. Like if you've not announced something, they'll say, "Are you going to have this delivered?" And if you say no, they'll say, "Right, we'll extend it and we'll
Okay.
release it in
Right.
another slot." So it's not like a major pressure to do it.
Right.
It's not like they email me and say next year when's the next album coming out.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think it's kind of changed with these smaller labels, and not that Seasons is small, but comparatively to say something like an Atlantic Records or a Universal, like a giant label, there's a lot more pressure to make, of course, this a business as opposed to an artistic endeavor, of course. So it's like, well, we got to get an album in, we got to get it to the, the production plants for vinyl, we got to get it to the CD pressing, we got to get the art together, we got to get this stuff done, then we got to do promotion, and then we got to get these guys out on tour, because that's kind of the business cycle of, like, say, Metallica probably isn't accurate because they can do whatever the hell they want. But I mean, most more traditional sort of metal bands that are touring acts that go in and out regularly, and that's not really you, right? I mean,
No, I mean, coming back to being a business, like you can still be a artist and have freedom and do what you want and still have it as a business model, I guess. A lot of bands do that in the genre that I play in, and they
right,
still release good albums. But as you said, there are like mainstream bands out there that probably have the pressure of releasing every 2 years, say.
exactly, yeah, yeah,
And I guess the pressure of that is maybe not delivering the best material that you can deliver. There might be some really good songs, but there's going to be a lot of filler on it. So yeah, I don't really think like those bands. I do my own stuff, and
yeah.
I bet I write songs because I enjoy it, and it's like my passion, and I can't see myself doing anything else. Like
Nice.
it's a hobby, it's a passion, it's a thing I enjoy
It's,
doing.
it's
So
it's what you love doing, man. It's like a driving force in your
yeah,
life.
and it's
So
all and it's always been creating music. Learning instruments wasn't like I didn't care about being the best guitarist or learning the fancy solo or whatever. I just learned instruments to write and record music
sure,
and be
cool.
creative. So and I'll get to do that. And obviously we play live as well. And at the beginning, I was not at all very fond of playing live,
I bet. I bet.
but I've become quite used to it now, and it can be quite enjoyable. It's
Yeah,
just
I'm not a good guy getting on stage. I wasn't for a long, long time. I'm not bad now, but boy, it used to be, you know, sickness, like sick in my
yeah.
stomach, and just you're like, man, what am I doing this for?
I, I
But
I don't get like that. I just don't
well,
like the travel. I don't like the traveling
oh yeah,
because
yeah,
it's brutal. Sometimes it's like you leave the house, it's an hour to the airport. You're sitting in the airport for 3 hours, then you're on a 4 hour flight. Then you arrive, get your baggage, go in another van for 3 hours, 5 hours, get to the venue, sit about all day, and then you're on stage and you have to go on stage and put all your, effort in
yeah.
after
And you got no
traveling.
energy, and you got virtually no sleep, and you ate a lot of shitty food, and
Yeah,
it's like, yeah. I mean, for clearly bands like Metallica and the big guys, they travel in luxury buses, and they have, you know, it's a different sphere. You
yeah,
guys do this for the love of the music and sharing that music, the passion of sharing that music with guys like me, and there's guys like me all over this country and every country and probably in the world that has access to this stuff. So we appreciate that you do that. Trust me. One of the immediate things that I noted in Origin was how compact the songs were. we kind of addressed this actually. Now that I'm looking at, because do you ever feel like you've lost the plot when you're working on a song and it just keeps getting longer and you're like, shit, how do I end this thing? Like, what do I do here? Have you run into that ever?
Um, yeah, I guess so, but um, I don't really get annoyed by it. I'll leave it to the side or something like that. Like I won't get annoyed by the songwriting process. If I've come and hit a brick wall, I'll say I'll come back to that later and I'll do
Yeah.
something else now. And when I do something else, sometimes that opens up all new ideas and I can come back to the other
Ah,
one and go, there we go, there's the ending there.
so you're a
So
pretty patient guy then in that respect when you're working on stuff.
yeah, I'm probably too chilled.
Okay. That's a good way to be. You're gonna live a long life, trust me.
Yeah.
Let's see. I also noted that Amidst is less rocky than Origins. We already kind of went over that. Which I think, like you said, well, you stole my whole interview, quite frankly, because these are all thoughts. I'll just read this just so you know, because you basically said this. I also know that Amidst is less, shall we say, rock, as Origins had some very definitively less black metal type tracks, which I have to admit I really dug a lot. But the new one sort of has perhaps a more. I think you're kind of known at this point now for these epic landscapey sort of songs that incorporate a lot of native folk instrumentation, whether it be the bagpipes or the cello or strings. Do you write all that stuff, or do you allow the players to come in and kind of figure it out?
For the strings,
Yeah, like the
generally,
strings and the pipes and all those things, or are the pipes? I guess I shouldn't ask. Are they? They're real, right? I think they are.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought so. Right.
So, Ella, who plays live with us, she contributed a lot of the folk stuff on the new album.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's mainly her that's uh, created a lot of this stuff, but we kind of work together as well. So I might have an idea and I'll do it in guitar or something,
Ah.
and
Okay.
she can adapt to that.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of relationships we
You
have
do
when
some
we're working.
transcription stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or she might just pitch an idea, and I think, well, that really works well. Let's just use that. With the strings, again, strings are the one that I don't really compose. Like, I just leave it up to the person composing them.
Okay, so
Um,
you pay someone to compose strings
yeah,
for you.
yeah,
All right.
because I've no idea how to
Yeah.
play them or
I was
compose them.
curious because I was like, man, this dude is super talented if he's writing all that stuff too, man.
No. So I do like the vocals, the guitars, the bass, the song structure, the drums are like 90% me, but I program the drums in the demos and I'll send it to a drummer and then
Oh,
they'll
okay.
add the
Right.
more natural flow to the drums or
Right.
any
Right.
ideas they have. Um, on the earlier albums, I played all the folk stuff, but the later albums from Origins actually onwards, I've been working with other musicians to help out with that stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's always still going to be like a one man project. It's my project. So
Sure. Sure. Sure.
I like just working with guest musicians and it changing and working with different people. It's quite good and always gives a fresh take
Sure.
on it
Absolutely.
each album instead of it just being the same people over and over and over. Because every album sounds quite different in that sense, so that's pretty cool.
Well, speaking of that, you also kind of do that with your artists too for your artwork, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah.
far as I could tell, I've only seen one. I'm gonna say her wrong. Her name probably wrong. Aeneas and
Uh, Anais?
Aeneas Mulgrew.
Yeah,
Was she the same Aeneas that was on a couple albums earlier before doing? She might have gotten married, I'm guessing, or what?
yeah.
Is it a
The
different Aeneas?
No, she did the Origins artwork.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
And the latest artwork was by a guy called Julian Bauer, and he did a really great job. Forgotten Past was a different artist, guy a guy called Chaos Dictator,
yeah.
who
Chaos
did that one.
Dictator.
Yeah. And
Now,
Aura is that.
are these real paintings or are they digital paintings or?
I think it's a mix.
Okay.
I think the new one's a mix and the Origins one's a mix. Forgotten Paths, I'm not sure. Aura as aura is actually a photograph. It's not a painting.
Oh, you're right. It's and it was digitally manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool though.
And Roots, the first album was done by a guy Kagayan Art, and he was the one that designed the logo as well. So every album's had
Yeah.
a different artist, and it's different had different musicians involved, and it's been I've worked with different people, so
They're beautiful. Every one of them is very beautiful and evocative. We got 5 minutes, so what I wanted to wrap in here quick was um, back to the artwork a minute. I mean, your music really, really, you're a perfect example of how the album art can reflect upon the music and vice versa because you look at your album art and when you get into the album, it's very immersive and you can literally like almost I can see the album cover like I'm like in that scene, which is a unique sort of experience. You don't get that from like say, Rain and Blood or you know what I mean, or Master of Puppets or something like that. But that's a really cool thing. That was just me giving you an observation there. Since we got to wrap real quick, I did want to ask you real quick about like your tools of the trade. What guitars and plugins and stuff like that do you use, or is everything digital, or are you reamping real amps for your guitars or what?
The amps, the guitars were reamped by the guy who mixed it, Chris Fielden. He took the what do you call it, the dry guitar, and
Right.
he reamped it in the studio because I don't have any amps.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's what I was
Yeah.
kind of wondering. Yeah.
So when I write the demos, I'll just go through some sort of VST programs and stuff and get some ideas, get some sound ideas.
Do you use
And
anything specific like Reaper or Atomic or Neural DSP? Like I have Neural
I,
DSP.
I use one called Tonality.
Okay.
It's the guy who mixed Origins. He released his own
Oh
guitar,
yeah. I do remember.
Lasse Lamert.
Yeah.
Lamert.
Yeah.
So I use his, and it's awesome. It's really good. One of the best actually sounding VSTs because some of them sound sort of too digitalized, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
And his
What,
sounds very natural. So
what about for like bass and is that all digitally created then or?
bass, oh well, it's just I play bass live. I've got a bass. I'm endorsed by Solar bass.
Oh, nice.
Well, Solar guitars.
Yeah. Ola.
So
Sure.
yeah. So I use Solar bass
How
on
do
the
you like
album.
that? It's a stupid question to ask because if I ask you how do you like them and you go, oh, I hate them, that's the end. So I've heard a lot of cool things. I've been interested in getting one. You can see I got guitars everywhere. I got PRSs and Les Pauls and everything, but I've been thinking about getting one. I wasn't really quite sure. I'm not fond of the idea that I can't play it first. I like to play a guitar
Yeah.
and see how it feels in my hands and but I've heard a lot of great things about them. But I assume they treat you well.
Yeah, well, I bought the bass from them just as a kind of blind purchase. I hadn't played a Solar bass. I just looked at some reviews. People said it was really good, and it really is a really great bass to play. And I love the style of it. I love the feel of it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it, and it's a solid piece of equipment as well. I used to play a Fender Aerodyne Jazz
Okay,
bass,
yeah. Mhm.
but that's a bit beaten up. I've had that for like almost 15 years now, and I've done all these tours and gigs with it, and it's been battered and bruised. It still works, but it's weird that the Solar's a little heavier, I think. But I don't know, it feels a lot sturdier and it feels a lot more metal, I guess, to play.
How
Yeah.
have you always played bass live? You're not. I thought you were the guitar player. That was kind of weird. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I play guitar on the albums, and I was originally a guitar player, but I've always played bass live with Sir.
Does it make it because it's easier to sing that way, or is it
Yeah,
'cause it's
yeah,
easier to sing for you?
pretty much.
Yeah,
I'm more confident playing the bass and doing the vocals rather than playing guitar. If I played guitar, I'd have to just focus on the
but
guitar, I
it's a
think.
lot of tremolo picking, man. That would be
Yeah.
difficult. I don't know how
Uh,
guys like Isan and Abath and some of those guys do that. I'm not
Well,
good at that at all.
well, it means I can leave that to the other guys, and I can play halftime and bass. So
Right. You want to mention your live players real quick and let me know what kind of long range plans you have for this album and touring and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, so we've got Ella, as I was mentioning earlier. She's does the the pipes, the whistles, and the female vocals live. So she does quite a lot. We've got Martin on guitar. He's Solar endorsed as well. He's probably more the kind of guy you would need to speak to about the guitar range.
All the gear shit, right.
Yeah. He's quite into his gear. Nico as well. He's really into his gear.
So you have two guitar players live.
Yep, two
Okay.
guitar players, and we have Carlos on drums. He's just a phenomenal drummer, and he was on Forgotten Paths. He was a drummer of Forgotten Paths originally,
Okay.
and then he did drums on the new album as well. So that's the live lineup. And yeah, for plans in the future, we've got all these dates coming up. We've got a small UK tour. We've got a Glasgow launch event next week, and then
Okay.
we've got some gigs in England. So we just call that a UK tour. It's mainly just 2 weekends, but
Sure.
and after that,
any plans to get to the States, or is that kind of because right now, man, things are, as you well know,
no,
things are fucking super weird here, right?
no, it's too. It's not that we don't want to play, but it's too expensive. The visa costs are ridiculous because when we came in 2019, we paid like £2,000, £2.5 or something, or £2,000 each
Oh,
to
jeez.
get visas, and then after that, when you add up like expenses and stuff, I think we pretty much broke even or lost a little bit by the time
Yeah.
we came back through merchandise. So
Mm.
it was good. It was a good experience, and it was good to play these places. But at the same time, it was kind of we didn't come back with anything really. You know, it was just
Yeah, it was
an
almost like,
experience.
yeah, it was probably more work than it was worth in some respects. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a hassle going through the visa process as well because we had to fly to Belfast in Northern Ireland to do an interview, and it was literally you just go there and get your passport stamped, but they ask you like, why are you going to America? And then then we had to fly to Dublin to get there and go through immigration, and they're asking all the questions. Why
Mm.
are you coming to do you have this? Do you have that? And yeah, it was a bit of a pain. But
That was the last
eventually,
time you were here, was 2019 then.
that was the last time.
Okay.
Well, actually, we were in Miami, but that was because we were playing on the 70k tons
Oh, you
metal.
did play that. Okay.
Yeah. So we played that last January.
You know,
Um,
have you ever been approached by MDF, Maryland Death Festival?
nope, no.
Because they do a lot of black metal there.
Yeah. No, I've never been approached
That would
by
be
them.
a cool way to get over here. And then I'm good buddies with Greg Chandler from Esoteric, and they came over and played last year
Yeah,
and did a short tour with Spectral Voice, and were able to kind of everything hinged around that. I think Coroner is doing that this year, and so hey, look, man, you got to get out of here. I know. So sorry about that.
no problem.
I thought maybe by taking the 3 o'clock slot. Well, actually, I took the 2:30, so I thought maybe I could have you a little bit longer. Will knows he's always scared to give people to me because we get into these long, deep, granular
Oh
interviews.
no, it's been great. It's been great.
All right, well, look, Andy, thank you so much for being here. Maybe we'll catch up one of these days in the future. Continued success. The album is fantastic. It really is wonderful. It's definitely going to be, it's going to be a year ender for me already. I can tell. So that's a good thing. And there's a lot of good albums coming out right now. Great old ones just put an album out. Love that band. So there's a lot of good stuff coming. So, but this one is fantastic. That first track, the title track, wow. Just, I
Thank
feel
you.
like I'm flying on the wings of, on the back of a dragon, and just flying over Scottish moors that are on fire, and it's just so fucking epic, dude. It's just killer stuff. So, all right, man, thank you so much for being here, and all the people that watch it. We got 8 people in here now. That's kind of cool for this late. But any last parting shots?
Thanks for having me. That was a great interview, and all the best in the future, man.
Absolutely, man. And check my channel out. I do a lot of these things. So let's try to stay in touch.
Go.
You never know. You never know. I got a lot of connections, and you just never know what may or may not happen as far as getting an opening slot or something like that. I've hooked people up. It's happened, so it's kind of cool. So thanks, Andy. Have a good afternoon. Well, it's a good night for you over there. So all
Yeah, 8:30.
right, get out of here. You got to go, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, have a good night. Okay,
Cheers, man. Thank you.
all right,
See ya.
take care.
You too. You too.
Bye. Okay. We had to kind of rush there at the end. Not Andy's fault, more my fault. We had a little bit of some interesting stuff trying to get this. I'm still trying to get this platform down. I'm really struggling with certain elements of it. Wonderful guy, wonderful interview. Amidst the Ruins, absolutely fantastic album. I'll throw it up again on here. If you like epic, grand, beautiful sounding, folky black metal, but it's the folk element is very Scottish. It's very Highlander vibes to it. Of course, you have anytime you can put, in my opinion, anytime a band puts bagpipes in a metal song, I'm 1,000,000% on board for that. It's a fucking banger of an album. So check that album out, everybody. And oh, what happened there? Did I leave? No, there I am. And I think that's about it. Upcoming stuff. Damn, I should have had this rehearsed. So February 4th at 3 p.m., I've got John Gallagher from Raven coming in. They've got a new EP out. I'm struggling to remember the name of it off the top of my head. So he's going to be coming in. That'll be fun. He seems like a super great guy. Dennis and I are finally back. We're finally back, and we are going to be doing the. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, we're going to be doing the Forgotten Metal Gems of the 80s and 90s, and we've got 5 bands we're pulling from. We're doing 3 albums from Heir Apparent. It really should only be 2, but I'm sneaking the more recent one in just because I know Terry Gorel and I want to pimp the album a little bit for him. So Heir Apparent, Vane, we're doing I believe just one album from Vane, the one that's in the 80s. We're doing Hawk, the band Hawk, who had a lot of people with them. Scott Travis was in that band. Mark Torian from Bullet Boys was in that band. Who the hell else was in there? Matt Sorum was in that band. They had one album, so we're going to talk about Hawk. We're going to do the 3 albums from Shock Paris, which I have to admit I don't really know that band as yet. Got to jump into that now and get started on that. That is going to be February 1st. I believe that's a Saturday, I hope. Next Saturday, right? I think that's next Saturday. 9:30 p.m. with Dennis and I. Let's see. Damn it. What was the other band? Sorry. Old man, sick brain here. Let me pull it up here. Okay, we got Shock Paris, Hawk, Leatherwolf. We're doing 3 albums from Leatherwolf and Vane and Heir Apparent. So that'll be our stockpile for next Saturday night at 9:30. I want to get him back in soon. We're going to be doing in the middle of, I think the 14th, I think I'm looking at. We're going to be doing myself and Eric Berg and possibly John Halm and Hunter Ginn from Agalloch might be popping in to do the Kate Bush discography. I think those 2 guys are only going to pop in for the albums that they like. They're not a fan of some of the early and later stuff. But Eric Berg and I are going to do the entire catalog. The Sabotage Deep Dive is off for a little while. Steve from Crip Sermon has some family matters he has to tend to, and I really want him to be involved in that, so that's on hold. And then there's some other interviews I'm working on, some cool ones, real cool ones. And one might be related to that Sabotage Deep Dive. If you're a thinking guy, you might put your thinking cap on and realize what I'm talking about. So I think that's about it. Still working on some other ideas that may or may not come to pass. I want to try to resurrect the Island series. We were going to do post-metal albums. I need to check in with all those guys. It's been around the holidays. I was traveling a lot, going to a lot of shows, and my energy level was pretty bad, so I just didn't have it to do a lot of stuff. And actually, interesting that you say that. Nate, because I have some feelers out for a guy that was not the Malignancy guy, but he played with some of the Malignancy guys. So Alex being one of them. So I'm actually looking to get a pretty flashy guitar player on that I'm talking to right now. So we're going to try and work that out. And I think that's about it. So many thanks to Andy. Pick up the new album out February 7th on Season of Mist, Amidst the Ruins. All that stuff's in the description. And I think that'll probably do it, except to say one thing. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you're going to note that there's been a pretty lethal amount of political postings lately. I generally kept gas masks away from the politics, but given the current tenor and the current administration, which, if you watch this and you don't like what I'm about to say, that's fine. You can leave and go somewhere else. That's totally cool with me. You have every right not to like what I'm about to say, and you can go somewhere else. But the things that I'm posting, while I'm scaling back some of the more vitriolic sentiments, the personal sentiments, they will continue. You will continue to see as many of the lies exposed as possible this administration. So there you go. Sorry about that. I'm not going to bring it onto the channel on YouTube, other than just right now, that little bit that I said. But the bottom line is that I feel we're in a fight for survival, and I feel we are in deep, deep fucking trouble. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Gore Grind and Power Metal Island, not happening. Gore Grind Island, definitely not happening. But yeah, so that's about it, guys. That's the whole nuts and bolts of the posting stuff on Instagram. If you've noticed it, and if it bothers you, you just don't have to look at it. That's how I kind of view it. But a lot of what I've put up there, I vet as thoroughly as I possibly can, and I feel people need to see it and need to know about it. Just for my tiny infinitesimal little part, doesn't mean I don't know yet, Nate. I don't really know. I don't really know. As I can't answer that question definitively. I don't know what happened with the one person that canceled, but interestingly enough, I'm going to see that show. I got a guest list pass to go see Jonathan open for the Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats down in DC on the 5th, next Wednesday, week from now. And I'm looking forward to it because he puts on an incredibly interesting, theatrical, beautiful sort of show. So I'm excited to do that, and I love his new album. I've got it coming in soon. That'll probably be a year ender. I don't know if that was why he canceled. I don't really know, but I'm not really going to apologize for my political leanings. I am not a socialist or a communist, but I'm definitely not whatever this fascist regime is. I'm not about it at all, and I think a lot of people are already starting to regret their choice. But man, when you try to French kiss a cobra in a fucking phone booth, you're gonna get bit and you're gonna fucking die from it. That's how I look at it. Remember that one. If you try to French kiss a cobra in a phone booth, you're fucked. And that's where I think we're at right now. So that's the end of that. No more political stuff. Thank you so much to Andy Marshall for popping in. And sorry we had to rush that at the end. Get the album. Guys, go get this album. If you like Saor at all, you're going to love this album. Even if you don't know him, go get this album. Go listen to it online. Go watch the YouTube video of the title track. It is fucking amazing. So go do that. Everybody have a good night, okay? Peace out. I got to come up with a tagline to get out. Where music melts your mind. I dropped that a long time ago, Tim. Sorry. I'm old and fucked up in the brain. So anyways, you guys have a great, let's see if I can do my Scottish here. Have a great evening. That's terrible. All right. Anyways, good night.